banning the Popular Front of India. Now officially labeled an unlawful organization, will a 5-year ban stop the Muslim group's activity or make them stronger? I'm Andrea Sankey, and today's newsmaker is banning the PFI. The Popular Front of India describes itself as a democratic organization that strives to empower minorities. But India's Ministry of Home Affairs says the organization is nothing of the sort and says the group's real motivations are far more nefarious. In an official declaration banning the group, the ministry says that the PFI and its associates operate openly as a socioeconomic, education, and political organization, but has been pursuing a secret agenda to radicalize a particular section of society. The government's conviction on the matter is so strong that it says the PFI is behind a conspiracy to create an Islamic State in India. Government officials say PFI supporters have gone so far as to ally themselves with terrorist organizations. They claim PFI offices compose a vast money-making network that raises funds for criminal activities, including murder, kidnapping, and the incitement of violence. But PFI members deny all of the government's accusations and say they are the victims, accusing Prime Minister Narendra Modi of targeting Muslim groups, and in this case, coming up with trumped-up charges to arrest 300 PFI leaders and activists under what they call a strict but ambiguous anti-terrorism law. So is the PFI connected to terrorists, or is the BJP fabricating crimes to push an ultra-nationalist agenda? That debate in a moment, but first, this report.
In December of 1992, Hindu mobs attacked the Barbary Mosque, thought to be built on the birthplace of the Hindu god Rama. The destruction that ensued caused riots in different parts of the country, which killed more than 1,000 people. The now ruling BJP garnered massive support after those incidents and would go on to implement pro-Hindu policies that affect everything from who can become a citizen to the ability to wear a hijab. Minority groups, especially religious ones, banded together and formed the Popular Front of India.
The tribals, the Dalits, backward classes, the minorities, especially the Muslims, feel that they are being excluded. We think it is our responsibility to ally with the aspirations of these deprived and oppressed classes. Our vision and mission are born out of the conviction that unless and until all social classes and religious communities are equally empowered, the Indian system, which is the largest democracy of the world, will continue to remain a mockery.
The PFI organized rallies and conferences to raise awareness of inequality, injustice, and exploitation in India. But its followers also faced accusations of violence. The first major incident took place in 2010, when PFI supporters in the state of Kerala cut off the hand of a professor for allegedly insulting the Prophet Muhammad in an exam question. It resulted in dozens of arrests and raids on the organization. Since then, the PFI has faced charges of murder, kidnapping, links to terrorist organizations, and inciting violence. PFI supporters have disavowed any responsibility for what they call the crimes of individuals. One told Voice of America, "There is no evidence in the public domain of the PFI or its allied organizations being involved in illegal activities. If an individual belonging to any of these organizations commits any crime, he must face action individually. His organization should not face punishment for his crime." Despite calls to ban the organization, the PFI has grown over the years. Until recently, the group boasted offices in 23 Indian states, which served hundreds of thousands of members. And yet, by some accounts, that rise in popularity hasn't been turned into real political power. A retired professor from Jamia Millia Islamia University told the BBC the PFI is not a significant political or social force in India. whatever influence it has is mainly limited to Kerala and some other southern states. Muslims in the rest of India do not even know of its existence as a political entity. And yet, the PFI's allies don't believe the government's ban guarantees an end to the organization, saying the group could simply come back under a different name.
So, could banning the PFI backfire? And how do the majority of Indians see a group that says it defends the rights of the oppressed but stands accused of terrorism? Joining me now to debate that and more are from London, Shishir Bajoria. He is a state executive member of India's ruling BJP party. From Noida, India, we have journalist and politician Ashutosh. He's also the co-founder of the online digital news portal Satyahindi. And in New Delhi is Taslim Ahmed Rehmani. He is the president of the Muslim Political Council of India. Thanks all so much for being with us. Well, in trying to get a better sense, really, of how Indians feel about this group and this ban, I personally looked through some Indian media reports, and one statement I found particularly interesting. It's from Shekhar Gupta. He's the editor of The Print, and he makes a very clear point in his piece that I would like to get your opinion on first. So let's listen quickly.
Now, the most important thing about this ban is that this is perhaps the only ban in the history of India in a very long time, at least in my memory, on which everybody agrees. Everybody agrees to the extent that these were bad guys.
Taslim, is it more or less universally agreed then that the PFI are not good guys?
I think I can contest the Shekhar Gupta. He's a very senior journalist in our country. And the impression that there is a consensus that they are bad guy is not true. Actually, there are so many bad guys in the country. And Shekhar Gupta and my other co-panelists who are all Indians, fortunately, they know that there are so many bad guys. But as far as the PFI is concerned, if they are the bad guys, why they are not being banned like a terrorist? Shekhar Gupta ji will certainly appreciate that the Gazette notification say that they are an unlawful association, not terrorist. Radicalization is a problem for every nation, and no nation can afford radicalization. Even we cannot afford, as a country, we cannot afford any radicalization, but we cannot be selective on radicalization, and we cannot be political. We cannot use radicalization or terrorism or any kind of violence as a tool of politics. If we are doing this, then we are doing a great disservice to our nation. And this is what the common impression of this nation. So many political parties, rather all the non-BJP political parties is agreed that this is a selective, communal, partisan attitude of the government of India to ban a particular organization while their own outfit who belong to the ruling class.
Okay.
They are day in and day out. They are using the Dharam Sansad and slogans and threats to a particular community.
Okay, Taslim, though, as you say, we cannot be selective of radical organizations. Others might argue, well, it's better to at least clamp down on a few if it can be done, if you can't get all of them. But do you think it has to be done fairly across the board? So if the RSS, the far right-wing Hindu nationalist organization, is not banned, then PFI should not be banned either?
You see, our premier investigating agencies has found some information about their violent and radical activities. We cannot question our agencies, our investigating agencies. They are all subject to the judicial scrutiny. They will go to the court, they will prove their point, and if they are correct, the ban will continue until and unless the judicial scrutiny and the process of judiciary is not completed. We cannot be judgmental for anything else. So because of our agency said that they found them indulged in those kind of activities, prima facie, we can agree to them. But again, it is the judicial process which will ultimately decide what is wrong and what is correct, right? But again, I will stress, there are openly dozens of organizations who are committing more grave crimes in the country. And this selectivism, I'm sorry to say, if we will be selective, this can lead to an anarchic situation in the country. And that's why it's a disservice.
Okay, Shishir, in your opinion, is it unfair to be selective, as Taslim describes it?
Well, first of all, let me congratulate Rehmani Saab on his statement, where he has agreed as far as banning PFI is concerned. It's a very big statement, Rehmani Saab, and I congratulate you. Now, what you said about the law of the land, of course the law of the land will take its course, and anyone can go to the courts, and it's for the courts to decide whether the ban is justified or not. And that is why, if you see, the ban is only for a 5-year period. You do not ban an organization for life just with the first charges. So that is how. And before Government of India moved, before our agencies moved towards this and the Gazette notification was issued, I think about a 5-year odd work was done, where every document was put together, even how they got funded, everything was pieced together. Now, Rehmani Saab has a issue where he says the other organization, and he singles out RSS. Rehmani Saab, you know very well what RSS is. It's very easy to talk about it. Every event of RSS starts with only one and only one prayer to the flag, which is prayer to Mother India.
Okay.
RSS only believes in the motherland.
Okay, I need to let Taslim respond
I want an
quickly. Go
opportunity
ahead.
for a rebuttal. Yeah, you know, we know that you said that for PFI there was a five years long documentation the government of India has, but for RSS there is a 75 years of documentation behind it. You see, 3 times the RSS has been banned since 1941, 48. RSS
Right.
was the first organization in the country who has been banned for these radicalized association, and there are hundreds and dozens of
Okay.
cases where the RSS people are being charge sheeted, they are in the jail, they are being tried. Even
Right.
their members
Before
of
we
parliament
get
are
too far
in
into
jail
the
for
discussion
such
of the
kind
RSS and its extremist nature, as some would argue, versus the PFI, I want to get Ashutosh into this conversation, because Ashutosh, you know, the BJP has come under a lot of scrutiny for discriminating specifically against Muslims. So a step like this, I feel, would have to be taken quite carefully. Do you think it was carefully considered? And if so, why crack down on the PFI now?
I think it has to be understood in the proper context, because since 2014 there is a BJP government at the center, and the BJP government is supported and ideologically supported by the RSS. RSS has been banned, as Rehmani Saab has said, 3 times in the last 75 years, in 1948, in 1977, and in 1992. But today, RSS and the BJP is at the center. They got the majority votes, and they got majority of the states. They have their own governments. There is a serious question mark about the BJP and its ideology. It is blamed and it is accused that they pursue anti-Muslim, anti-minority politics, and there is no doubt about it. So they have a lot to answer. But the PFI, on record, I can say this, that PFI has a troubling past. It is a disturbing past. It's a past, it's problematic past. I'm surprised that why this organization has been not called by the government unlawful association. They call it the unlawful association. Though in the Gazette notification, at least the 5 times they has mentioned the word terrorism, that linkages with the ISIS, and their cadre has involved into the terrorist activities. And despite mentioning this, why the government of India had not called it a terrorist organization? Let's not forget it. In a few years back, in the state of Jharkhand, PFI was banned, and the High Court of the Jharkhand has lifted the ban. So is it because of the legalities or something else?
Is there also a question of it being, as some have argued, there's, Ashutosh, just a few bad apples that need to be taken out of an otherwise legal organization?
PFI, I think, has worked as a legal organization, but as I said earlier, it has a very problematic and disturbing past. It is a radical Islamist organization which has some questionable questions too. It's like RSS, which calls for the Hindu Rashtra. Probably PFI also calls for the Islamic Rashtra. So, if RSS should be questioned on the Islamic, on the Hindu Rashtra, then PFI should also be questioned on the making India into an Islamic state. But it's much more than this. In Kerala and in Karnataka, today the ban is, the question should be asked, is it because of the elections, assembly election going to happen in Karnataka in a 6 months time, or is it related to the Gujarat election, which is going to happen in the month of December? Is there a politics behind it? I do not have any proof, so I can't really say that. But yes, there are question marks. There are serious accusations that probably for the polarization of votes, probably for the consolidation of Hindu votes, this crackdown has been done on the PFI. But if you ask, do I have a proof? I do not have a proof as of now. But my political understanding says that it has some links with the assembly elections and also with the parliamentary election in 2024.
Okay, Shishir, I'll come back to you because you do see the PFI as a terrorist group, not an unlawful organization. And in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs notification that was released on this matter, I just want to requote what it said. It says the organization raised funds as part of a well-crafted criminal conspiracy and eventually used these funds to carry out various criminal, unlawful, and terrorist activities in India. So, will we see actual prosecutions carried out? And will the PFI be labeled a terrorist organization then, eventually, in your opinion?
Well, that the legal system of India will decide. I'm very sure it will happen. But let me ask one question to everyone here. When most of the PFI places that were raided, one common factor was found from most of the places raids were carried out. How to make IED with easily available material. When this kind of literature comes out as the highest common factor, what do you call this organization? Number one. Number two, Ashutosh ji talked about Hindu Rashtra. Ashutosh ji, you also know that Hindu Rashtra as defined by RSS. Let me say what Swami Vivekananda said about Hindu Rashtra.
Okay.
Even what Sarsang Chalak ji said. Now, Hindu Rashtra does not just mean the Hindu religion. It encompasses everybody who's in this country. And I must give one example about BJP. Sir, Rehmani Sahab, just let me complete. Give me 30 seconds, Rehmani Sahab. Rehmani Sahab, give me 30 seconds, please. Let me complete what I'm saying. Talked about BJP. Ashutosh ji, you did. Now, BJP does not use Muslims as a vote bank, which unfortunately other parties do. They just use them as vote banks and do nothing about the livelihood of Muslims. And I give hard facts. I come from the state of West Bengal, where I am an executive member of the BJP. West Bengal has 30% Muslims, with 3% government jobs going to Muslims. Gujarat has 9% Muslims, with 5% government jobs going.
Right.
You blame RSS, BJP for this?
The BJP defense before saying it fancies itself an all-inclusive party. But sorry, Ashutosh, I'll let you respond quickly, and Taslim, I want to get straight back to you. Go ahead, Ashutosh.
Yeah, I think my dear friend Bajoria has not read RSS literature. RSS has never ever defined what is Hindu Rashtra per se. I think this ambiguity is important for them. And so there is no written document which decides what is Hindu Rashtra per se. That's that's answer number one.
Sir, refer to Sarsang Chalak ji.
I think I have read enough about the RSS literature from the Golwalkar to Deendayal Upadhyaya.
Sir, hear the last speech of Sarsang Chalak ji.
Bajoria Sahab, I have written a book on Hindu Rashtra. So please give me some benefit of doubt and some credence about my knowledge.
Sir, you may have. I do not challenge you, sir. But my only request is read this last speech of Sarsang Chalak ji.
That's the beauty of RSS. They always maintain ambiguous statements. For the different occasions, they have a different definition. Let's not get into that. Point number two.
I beg to disagree, sir.
3%. Let me say. Since you're talking about 3% representation of the Muslims in the, don't you think it is ironical? It is tragic for the country like India, where out of 302 member of parliaments from the BJP, not one is from the minority communities.
Exactly.
In UP.
I want to answer this question. I want to answer this question. May I?
Sir,
Okay.
let me complete. I did not disturb you. Let me speak.
Sorry,
first.
sir. I'll keep quiet.
Even in the cabinet, the central cabinet led by Mr. Narendra Modi, there is not even one Muslim minister. In UP, which is the largest state, gives 80 member of parliament and more than 400 MLAs. Not one MLA is elected on the tickets of the BJP. There is not. So now you tell me, is it representational democracy? Is it democratic to ignore 14% of the population and don't give them any representation? Don't you think it is anti-Islam? It is anti-Muslim? It is anti-minority? I'm asking
May I
you,
answer?
sir.
I'll tell you what, though, in the interest of democracy here on this panel, I do want to give everybody equal time. And Taslim has been waiting very patiently, actually. I saw you found some of this quite laughable in the exchange you were hearing. So, Taslim, do go ahead.
You see, what our BJP friend Mr. Bajoria is telling to this channel, whatever they did, they cannot come out with RSS as a very clean organization. And the RSS is the ideological mentor of Bharatiya Janata Party. You see, I was the member and the national secretary of a political party called the Social Democratic Party of India, which is the political offshoot of PFI. For 3 years, I was the national secretary. And I left the Social Democratic Party of India 1 year back only because I was having an objection that their strategy, their working, and their style of their ideology was similar to the RSS. If we are opposing the country, largely 70% of this country is opposing the RSS ideology.
Okay.
The maximum
I'll tell you what,
38% vote the Bharatiya Janata Party has taken was against the RSS.
I do want to look
if
more
the-
closely,
if
actually,
there
at the
is a Muslim
PFI, because that is
RSS, there is a Hindu
the
RSS.
subject of this debate. Very quickly, Taslim, the IUML senior leader, MK Munir, he is not coming out in support, but instead he's saying we need to fight the ideology of the PFI, not ban them. Do you think that is the right message?
Exactly. Banning is not a solution of any problem. We endorsed it because the government of India said it, and the PFI itself has accepted it and dissolved itself. Within few hours, the PFI has dissolved all its units, and the PFI admitted and accepted and honored this ban. And if there are some radical people, if there are groups, they must be caught, they must be put behind the bars, they must be tried and executed through our court. We are very open. We have a very wide.
Well, apparently there will be the opportunity, of course, to appeal to the High Court, and these things have been overturned before. I'll tell you what, we're down to our last 3 minutes. So, Shishir Bajoria, I'll give you a quick response. Please do, keep it concise.
Why they don't?
A very quick response.
Why they didn't?
A very quick response. Can I respond?
Please do go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, a very quick response. One, Ashutosh ji spoke about 303 members of BJP and not a single Muslim MP. Ashutosh ji, you know one thing for a fact. BJP does not select its candidate based on religion. And that is why my statement was, we do not use them as vote banks, which other parties do, use them and then discard them. Sir, let me complete, sir.
Okay.
Sir, let me complete. They just use them and discard them. That is why the plight amongst the poorest of the poor in India, unfortunately, is our Muslim brothers. Why? Because they have been discarded, they have been used and thrown. Now, number one. Number two, what Rehmani Saab, what you mentioned about, sir, you have an issue with the RSS and your arithmetics about 70% of the country being against BJP. Sir, at least get your arithmetics right. While 36% popular votes came to us does not mean the balance went against us.
Viewed as unfair that one group is taken out and banned, the other is not.
Only 23 crore.
Ashutosh, I'll tell you what, we only have a minute left.
230 million votes, come on, is the highest in the country. is the highest in the
Ashutosh,
country. Look at your math,
Is
sir.
this really about
But we are a
how
1.4
to
billion
approach...
population.
Okay, Ashutosh, is this really about how to approach dangerous ideologies here in order to manage to let them function under the freedom of speech and religion in our democracies? Is that where this discussion really needs to be?
See, banning is not a solution. I can understand that if any organization is indulging into a terrorist activity, the law should take its own course and they should be dealt with viciously. But for the radical ideologies, and there are many radical ideologies in the country, I think engagement with them, interaction with them, and overreaching them.
Okay, Ashutosh, that will have to be the final word. I'd like to thank all three of my panelists sincerely so much for being with us on this edition of The Newsmakers. Unfortunately, the clock is against us as always. Thank our viewers for tuning in as well. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter, and do be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Andrea Sankey. We'll see you next time.